Hello, I'm Wanderer001 and this is my review of the NVIDIA Shield TV Pro. Now this is the 2019 model. There is and may still be available, a previous year model that comes with some extra features and processor differences. I'm not gonna lie, this is my first Android TV set-top box. And I did watch a lot of reviews that were talking about how some of the processing power of this is not all that different than a previous generation model. So I will leave it up to you if you can find the old model. If you want to get that, get that. If not, this is a review of the 2019 model itself. And like I said, this is my first foray into Android TV set-top boxes. I have tested out several different types of streaming hardware, list over there. Primarily, my go-to for the longest time has been Roku devices. Again, list over there. They're the device that I tend to suggest to the lay user or people who are just starting getting streaming. Now, this particular set-top box is a powerhouse. This is going to be something that I suggest to somebody who has made the jump into cord cutting. They know what they like, they know what they want, but they want to have some other options, and those other options we'll address a little later. So, what we're looking at here is a box that is 6.26 inches wide, has a height of 3.8 inches, and a depth of 1 inch at the back, which is its thickest point. Now, I say that only because I've seen, this is how I tend to keep it in my entertainment system, but I've seen pictures and people display them like this. So the dimensions can be a little off-putting, so that's why I left it like this. Here, we have a deck of cards just because, you know, it makes it a little easier sometimes to visualize the size of something if you have a comparable. And most people do have a comparison with a deck of cards because they're used to seeing that. So what we're looking at here at the top, it's matte plastic, except for this little piece here, you know, accent point, little shiny. There is an LED strip right here, which is green, has 3 levels of brightness. I find that that is not terrible when in use, so I don't think it's as bad as the bright white light on a lot of the Roku devices. And again, it is adjustable where it can be off or 3 different brightness settings. I keep it on the lowest brightness setting, and in my, you know, entertainment center, it doesn't bother me. You do have a shiny plastic trim all the way around here. On the right side, we're gonna call this the right side, there is nothing here to look at. On the back side, we have a vent port. You have 2 USB 3.0 ports, even though they're not showing that they're 3.0 with the blue tag inside. These are 3.0 ports. Having these 2 extra USB 3.0 ports is actually a very good thing, considering that the NVIDIA Shield here only has 16 gigabytes of internal storage, and some of that is actually utilized by the operating system and any channels that you start adding to that. So that can go rather quickly depending on your use cases. So the beauty of having 2 of them is you can have one used for external storage, so you can just plug in an external hard drive right in here and be good to go. And then because the NVIDIA Shield here can act as its own Plex server, you can have your entire media library on a different external hard drive, much like I have, or, you know, I have a NAS system that I also use, but I have a backup of that on an external hard drive. I can plug in that external hard drive here with all my TV shows and movies, and I can run a Plex server right from the NVIDIA Shield. So while my Roku does not have a external USB port, and I did not use it all that often with the Roku, with the NVIDIA Shield, I find these to be much more valuable than on something like the Roku. So that extra power and these 2 slots means infinite possibilities. You've got your HDMI 2 port here, and we've got our Ethernet port and our power supply port for USB-C. So this is a USB-C powered device. Coming along to the other side, nothing there except shiny plastic. Underneath, you've got a very large vent port right there. You have matte plastic all around. You have this foot here, which is slightly rubberized in texture, giving you a good footing for that, which is also why I leave it on its belly, we'll call it, as opposed to standing up on either side, because that's just the shiny accent plastics. This actually is rubberized, and you'll get a good grip where it's not gonna move around on you, as you can see there. Now, internally, you are looking at an NVIDIA Tegra X1 Plus processor, which is a 256 256 core GPU with 3 gigs of RAM. Now, a lot of people have said that the X1 Plus is not really better than the original Tegra that was in the previous, prior 2019 model. Again, I did not test those. This is the one that I found. This is the one that I got. All I could speak to right now is what I have done with this particular set-top box. It ships with Android 9, which is Android Pie. So this is Android 9 powered by Android TV. It has built-in Chromecast 4K right in there. So again, much like other Android devices, this internal OS can be updated as it becomes changed and upgraded in the future. You have, like I said, the Ethernet port in the back there to plug directly in, which is how I tend to use these types of devices, but you also have support for 802.11 AC, both the 2.4 and the 5 gigahertz spectrum, and Bluetooth 5 LE. Again, if you're trying to get those best picture quality, and again, this is a 4K compatible device, you're going to want to hardwire it. But if you choose 5 gigahertz, you're going to get faster speeds. You just won't have the distance that you get with the 2.4 gigahertz. Now, those internal specs that I was talking about, that Tegra processor and the RAM, allow this to do a lot more than my Roku from a couple of years ago. And what do I mean by that? Well, as a test, running Disney Plus, trying to scroll through Disney Plus on my Roku versus scrolling through Disney Plus on the NVIDIA Shield here, there is a drastic difference in the smoothness of the scrolling and the load of the images. NVIDIA Shield had no problems with that. The Roku, yes, it's a couple years older, but it was just about top of the line when I got it, struggles to kind of quickly go through those. So, hey, NVIDIA Shield, extra processing power, extra RAM, you're going to see that in your scrolling through Netflix, through Disney Plus, through Hulu. Example of Disney Plus scroll time on Roku device. Example of Simpsons scroll time on Roku. Everything is gray. All right, scrolling example, NVIDIA Shield. Coming over to Simpsons scrolling. Loads much faster and better. Now, I did quickly mention that this does support 4K, well, I said it supported 4K, but it supports 4K HDR, Dolby Vision HDR, and has AI enhancements, which I'll talk about a little later. I'll list out the full range of specs that this supports down in the description area below. Audio-wise as well, over my Roku devices, this one supports Dolby Atmos. So if you're looking for a player that supports that type of setup, this is what you're going to be wanting to look at. This is what you're going to want to get. Because like I said, this is a little powerhouse as compared to the Roku device, which is more for general consumption or getting your feet wet into the streaming universe. Now, with a device like this, the hardware itself that does most of the streaming, well, that's part of the overall package. The other part is your streaming remote. So here we see the Toblerone shaped remote that comes with the NVIDIA Shield Pro. What we're looking at right here, if we look at the top, there is a microphone right there. Here you have your power button, which powers on and off your NVIDIA Shield because you can put it into a hibernate mode. You've got a programmable button. Right now I have this to toggle on and off the AI assistant. You have a directional pad and an OK button. Think of that as your OK button in the middle. This is not a scroll pad. You've got your back button, your home button, fast forward, rewind. I'm just going to jump down there. You have your voice assistant. The Shield is compatible with both Google and Amazon. However, out of the box, you will be setting it up for use with Google. Volume up, volume down, because you can control your TV's volume. However, I will state that by default, you will only be able to control your TV's volume as long as the shield is on, not in a hibernating mode. So that can be changed in the options menu, but just know by default, you have to have your shield on. There is a dedicated Netflix button right there, and that is the only button that you get on this. There are no other pre-programmable buttons like you see in the Roku remotes. It is a matte flat finish all the way around. You've got your IR blaster up front there and matching in the back there, but it doesn't actually use that as the IR blaster. Included are 2 AAA batteries, and I will say that this is one of the things that annoys me a little bit with the Toblerone shape, or at least with this particular remote in general. It is a pain to open this up. Like really, really difficult. I have other remotes where people have said, oh, that was difficult to open. I'm like, no, it's not really that bad. This one in particular, you have to press down and push this way, and even trying to do this around camera, I'm not gonna be able to. But this remote in particular, I have found to be difficult to actually open up to get your batteries in and out of there. So I wish, and some previous remotes that they had, you could charge them. So just dock it and charge it. I kind of wish they kept that because, well, I would like that very much with this. There also is a remote finder for your NVIDIA Shield. So if you happen to misplace this, you can always use that to locate your remote. The keys are backlit. Right now they're not showing up because, again, just like with the volume up and volume down buttons, the NVIDIA Shield itself has to be on in order for the backlights to work. Now that's a good power saving feature, and most of the time when I say your NVIDIA Shield has to be on, I don't mean like it's in hibernate mode. I mean there's no power to it at all. Right now my NVIDIA Shield's right here, so there's no power to it at all. If it's in hibernate mode, this will still light up. Now I have it set where I pick this up and the backlights light up. It's a nice feature. It's got a good feel in the hand. Like I was not sure how I felt about the weird Toblerone shape that it had, but it grew on me and just like naturally kind of fits the way that I hold a remote. So for me, not terrible at all. So the remote and device itself are all well and good. You've got a better idea now of what the hardware is like. The big thing with this is, how does it actually look? How does it feel when you're using an Android TV device? And again, this is the first Android TV set-top box that I've ever played with. So for me, it was an interesting experience trying to learn a new UI. I will admit it is fairly intuitive and not terrible to learn. So let me show you what the user interface for the NVIDIA Shield here is like. This is a walkthrough of the user interface for the NVIDIA Shield. Starting in the upper left-hand corner, you will notice that we have the talking section, which you have access to the microphone on your remote control. You can access the voice feature anywhere by using the remote. However, there is a dedicated button should you just want to highlight it and press OK. Evil Dead. Here we go. My customary search. I can also do back Star Wars. And it brings up lots of things for us to look at. Now, the other way that we can search is using a keyboard. I do not recommend this because you do have to hunt and peck. As I did mention before, if we hit the circle and go all the way back, you do have the voice command on the remote itself, which can be accessed from anywhere. So, Star Wars. No Star Wars, all right. That's an interesting search, but that is the dedicated area in the upper left-hand corner for that. Going across, we have the sprocket, which is our settings and options. We'll come back to that a little later. And the current time. There is no date. The first line that you have right here are our apps or channels. By default, it's in this carousel style. You'll notice that when you highlight one of the channels, it kind of brings it forward. However, you'll notice with Pluto and Plex, it's a little difficult to notice when it pulls it forward to make it a little bigger. I wish that they did do an outline of some sort around the channel just to make it a little better, a little easier to know what you're on. Because if you happen to leave it on Pluto and forget, you might not know that it's actually selected. You gotta hunt around. Also, I will state, as this was my first Android TV box, I was surprised to see that they actually had a supported Twitch channel. Because I know on Roku they got rid of that and I had to try and use a Amazon Fire Stick if I wanted to watch Twitch. Now, If we were to come over and select one of our channels by long pressing on the circle in the center of the remote, this will bring up our options. We can open, move, or remove from favorites. That's what this carousel up here is. This is our favorites. Clicking back on our remote, we're not going to do any of that because we're going to scroll all the way over here to the right. So if we wanted to add a channel, we can come here to the plus sign, click on that. We've got some predefined channels for us, or select back, go all the way to the right, highlight our apps, select this, and then it will show us all of our apps, and then we can get more from the Play Store, or if we wanted to, we can get more games. Circle on our remote brings us back. Next line down is things that are next to play. So these are things that were in progress. You'll also notice that the color shifted a little bit when I came from up top to my play next area, but this will just be the next up thing, so you kind of get an idea of things that have been watching. You'll see what channel they were on. So these were on Twitch, this was on Sling, all the way at the end there, that was Pluto. So that's what our up next is. We can come over all the way to up next, and it kind of highlights it, but you can't click on it like you could with the apps. Coming down, we've got our NVIDIA games. So these are things that you can access. Now, I do not really use this for gaming, but if you are interested in seeing something about that, let me know in the comments below, and I'll be sure to go through this. Because with the NVIDIA gaming section, these are just a quick carousel of titles, but if we come over to featured, it's going to bring us into the actual NVIDIA library. So here in the middle, we can find games, or we can set up our game stream, which is we add this to our computers and we can stream selected games. We also have featured, which is what we saw in that carousel, free with Shield. So any of these games right here, as long as you have an NVIDIA Shield, you can play them. However, you will need either the NVIDIA game controller or a compatible Bluetooth controller. You have free to play, fun for kids. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that you can go through. We're not going to cover all of that right now, again, because I don't really use this for gaming. I mainly use this as a TV consumption device. So starting with the featured NVIDIA games, you'll notice that there's now a little arrow to the left of that icon. If we come over there, we can click on it and we can rearrange this to a different location. Note that the actual play next and apps are locked into place. So it's only from featured games down that we could do this. Next we have Netflix recommendation, because I have an attached Netflix account here. This is for family. So if the last person that's watching Netflix, their recommendations will show up here. So if you've got family, wife, you, whoever watched it last, their recommendations will show up here. If you want to change that, you can always just come here and switch the profile. Likewise for recommended for YouTube. I started watching some weird music video stuff when I was trying to get work done the other day, and those are coming up under my recommendations. So don't judge me. I needed something to get me through the work day. Coming down, you have trending, which again will just be trending on YouTube. Featured by Google Play. I do appreciate that, unlike Amazon, your Android TV box actually puts these further down than having them right up top like the Amazon box did. So good on you for that. Coming down, recommended for you by Disney. Again, this is based on the last account that accessed Disney+. Featured channels, so here we go. It's showing Pluto. So these are being pulled from the channels that I'm actually interacting with the most using my NVIDIA Shield. Recommended music, again, this would be based on listening history. I don't really use this for listening. So it's not really going to be great recommendations for me. Again, Sling TV, because that's something that I've started watching now with that free, shelter in place that we have going on. Amazon Prime, I've accessed a few times, and Hulu, it's been a while since I've accessed it, which is why it's all the way at the bottom. So it will automatically, dynamically order these based on usage, or like I said, you can come over and we can rearrange this however we want. You also have this other option right here. If you didn't want it to show up at all, you can remove it entirely. Last at the bottom here, we have our customized channels. Selecting this will again bring us into a side panel where we can select things. Disney Plus, we've got 2 channels. Do we want to turn on Google Play Movies, Google Play Music? So it allows you to customize from another location. So we can either scroll all the way up using our remote, or we can select using the back button to bring us all the way back up to the top. So that's basically our channel interface. Next, what we want to do is we want to come over to the actual settings because there are a lot of settings for this device. Starting at the top, we have these sleep settings. So I can set this to sleep the NVIDIA Shield right now. I can restart the NVIDIA Shield if I wanted to. I can adjust AI upscaling, which is a great feature of the NVIDIA Shield, which I will show you after I go through all of our settings here. But here you have your settings for the AI. Right now I have it pretty much set to AI enhance everything. You have your detailed, so high, medium, or low, and then AI demo mode, which is really cool, and I'm going to show you that afterwards. Coming down after AI upscaling, we've got network and internet. So I have this hardwired into my Wi-Fi router. If I were to be using Wi-Fi, it would have more options here. So at the top, it does have that I am currently attached via Ethernet. There's some other sensitive information which I will not be showing you. You've got scanning always available Wi-Fi. If you're going to be using geolocation features, you want to leave that on. If not, you turn that off. Allow low power channels, I turn that off. Wi-Fi band, either 2.4 or 5 gigahertz. Wi-Fi roaming enabled, and then IPv6 enabled. Coming down, device preferences. You've got about, as you would with much of your stuff, you've got system upgrade, device name, sleep now, restart, power off, status of network, legal information. So this is pretty much going to tell you all about your NVIDIA Shield. Display and sounds. So resolution, that's my current resolution. Again, don't have a 4K TV yet, which one of these days I'll fix that, but we can come in there and by default it's showing that. If I had a better TV, I could do 4K and it would be listed here. So here you will also notice that you have AI upscaling again in another location. So there's a lot of menus that are going to fall back on themselves because they group everything together to try and make it easier for you. So power control, you've got turn on TV with Shield, set TV input to Shield, which is really nice. So when the Shield powers on, I get a little notification. Do you want to access HDMI 3? I say yes, it brings me right over there. Turn off TV with Shield. Turn off TV when Shield goes to sleep. So if your TV is on and the Shield sleeps itself, it will automatically turn off your TV to save you even more power. Wake Shield when power TV on. This is another useful trick. So it's all about customization and power settings for you. Sleep Shield when TV is powered off. Again, great. Sleep Shield when TV input changes. Also great. So you constantly put your Shield to snooze when you are not using it. IR controls. Right now I don't have the IR controls working to control my LG TV because what happens is if I power off the Shield, then my LG TV will also turn off. Well, sometimes I just want to sleep the Shield and move over to a Roku or something else. That's the thing. The Shield itself, the remote, will only control the TV if the Shield is on. If the Shield is off, none of that will actually work. So change IR setup for TV. We're not going to touch on that, and we're going to go back. Advanced display settings. So you've got match content color space. I leave that off because it was off when I got it. I do have the dynamic range just kind of left on auto. Custom display mode. Again, you're getting into some things that, unless you know what you're doing, probably wouldn't mess with this too much, and adjust for overscan. Coming down, sound. Volume control, LG. So right now I have it via IR, fixed volume. When I adjust the volume via voice, which you can do, increase volume by 1. So there we go, it turned it up. Or I can just say, decrease volume. So it's doing it in increments of 1. If I wanted to, I can change that. And then change IR setup. System sound is on, and advanced sound and settings. I'm going to leave most of this alone. I'll scroll through it very quickly so you can see it, but by default, it's going to set itself up to be very functional. And again, unless you're a super audiophile, I'd probably stay out of there. All right, system, customize quick settings. So in your quick settings area, right now I just have sleep, restart, but I can have all sorts of stuff in here. And again, totally customizable. NVIDIA Shield share, I have that off. LED brightness, what that is there's actually an LED on the top of the NVIDIA Shield, and you get set to how bright you'd like that to be. Again, power mitigation, or just if you have it in a dark room. Processor mode. So for me, I have this on max performance because why not? Fan mode, quiet. Realistically, unless you're playing games or watching a lot of 4K content, you won't need to change this to cool mode. And even when it is in cool mode, you don't really hear the fan, at least based on the setup that I currently have. Your mileage may vary. USB mode, it's on auto. You can set it for max performance or compatibility mode. So USB port away from HDMI. I have it set for always on because that's how it was default. You can sleep that if you'd like, and then again, USB, you can set that for sleeping. Storage. So by default, the NVIDIA Shield has 12 gigs of onboard storage. You can select to transfer files to a computer using USB. You can transfer files over the local network. You can mount network storage to the NVIDIA Shield. So if you've got something like a Drobo, which is a network attached storage device that I have, you could set it up so that your Shield can access it remotely. Home screen. Again, customized channels. This will allow you to change the ordering. We saw that in another place. Enable video preview. So again, just like Netflix does, when you go in there, it will show you a little preview of what's going on. Enable audio preview. Same thing. Apps, you can reorder them, just like we saw in another location. We can reorder our games. And then here you've got about Android TV Home, so we're not going to show that. Keyboard, so that keyboard that we could have searched for, you've got customizations for the keyboard settings right there. Date and time. By default, it's going to use your Wi-Fi network, but we can set this up however we want. Language, again, default for me, English United States. Google Assistant, this is going to show some information. Because you had to set this up with a Google account, it is going to be attached to that Google account. So it will show the email address and other specifications. Screensaver, you have a choice. You can do backdrop, which will rotate through some pictures. You can turn off your screen altogether, or you can have colors. I like the picture, so I leave it on the backdrop. When to start? In my case, I have it set for 5 minutes of inactivity. You can go all the way up to 2 hours. Put device to sleep, again, I have it set for 20 minutes. You can do 5 minutes, you can go all the way up to 12 hours, or you can select never. You can also start now, sleep now, and stay awake on music. So if you have music playing, the NVIDIA Shield will not set itself to sleep. Location. Location is, again, best going to use your Wi-Fi, but it will also use other Google devices if you have them. Usage and diagnostics. I have that turned off because I don't want to share. Chromecast with your NVIDIA Shield, because you do actually have, Chromecast enabled on the NVIDIA Shield. Security and restrictions. You can select it to only, and again, these were on by default, so I suggest it highly. Use only verified apps, allow all Bluetooth pairing on request, make password visible, Bluetooth LE privacy, and back. Accessibility, there are lots of accessibility services. Captioning, high contrast, text-to-speech, accessibility shortcuts, talkback, accessibility menu, and then select to speak, and then switch access. And then you can restart the device. All right, that is all under device preferences. Coming back, we've got remote and accessories. Selecting this, we can see Shield accessories. We've got one paired remote. We can pair another accessory, and we can access the quick guide. If we wanted to check the information for our remote here, we see the firmware, we see the name, we see the battery level, we see backlight settings. So we can come in here and we can change the backlight settings and the duration of how long those lights are on for. And we can designate whether it's on push button or if you pick up the remote. So very informative. It also has a find remote feature. So that beeping you hear right now is coming from the remote itself. And then you can forget this accessory. My one thing with the find the remote is if you cannot access your Shield, then you can't select the find remote feature. And I have tried accessing this through the Google Assistant with no avail. Backing up, we're going to come down to customize menu bar. So that button in the upper right hand corner of your screen, right now I have the AI upscaling demo set up for it. If you wanted to, you could change that button to do something else. Coming down, add a Bluetooth accessory, disconnect a Bluetooth accessory. Apps, selecting that, will show you the apps and information about each that you have. accounts. Right now I have two accounts. I have my Google account and I have my NVIDIA Shield account that I created. Now, as promised, what we're going to do is we're going to show you what the AI upscaling looks like and why you should really consider getting this just for the AI upscaling. Something like AI upscaling becomes very noticeable on old programming, something like this, Addams Family from way back when, so I can select basic upscaling or the advanced AI upscaling. And from here, it might not look like it's really doing all that much. However, if I go into the demo mode and zoom in a little bit, you can see on the left just how the AI upscaling is working, because right, left. So the left side of the screen is going to be no AI, and then AI. So you can definitely see that the AI upscaling is well worth checking out the Android TV box for, if for just that. But this has been probably a little longer than you expected walkthrough of the user interface for the NVIDIA Shield. So just like I said, not terrible at all actually utilizing the NVIDIA Shield here. Now, setup for this, I will admit, wasn't terrible. It was about 10 minutes worth of work to do, setting up the NVIDIA Shield, because it is a Google-based, system. Android is a Google system. So for me, I had to, plug in my actual username, actual password. So you will need a Google account to do this. Even with recording, it only took me about 10 minutes of getting this set up. Now, some of the channel setups, I do kind of wish that they would, instead of having to type out and hunt and peck your password and account name, that they would just give you a code that you could use, but maybe in the future that will change. Now, for myself, one of the things that I always consider when purchasing a new piece of technology is power usage. Now, my Roku tends to use very little power in comparison to one of like a set-top box that you would get from a cable provider. This guy, because of those internals and that processor, does use a little more power than the Roku does. However, I will state, when this is in power saver mode, it actually only uses 1.92 watts of power. The Roku, when it goes into power saving mode, has a scrolling screensaver that makes it use slightly more power than this when it's in hibernation mode. When it is just on, meaning you're on that home screen and nothing is happening, it uses 2.62 watts of power. And then when streaming a HD Netflix movie, so sadly, no 4K here, don't have a 4K TV yet, it uses 3.98. So again, while those numbers are larger than what you would have with a Roku device, you have more power, and it is still less power than you would have from a set-top box from your cable provider. So here is the big deciding factor between the NVIDIA Shield here and a Roku device. The NVIDIA Shield does have the ability to be a gaming platform. Now, if you're getting this primarily just as a streaming set-top box, I still, depending on your use case, might suggest this over a Roku. If you're using it for a gaming platform and a streaming device, I definitely suggest this over a Roku. But here's the deciding factor. You can pick up a Roku anywhere between $40 to $100, depending if you're getting top of the line. The NVIDIA Shield here, Pro. Again, there are two different versions. This is the Pro version. This is $200. That is a large sticker price to swallow for some people. I will admit that I was hesitant at first, and even took me a while to open this up to test it out, because I'm like, I don't really want to go, deal with a new environment. I don't want to necessarily set up something that I'm not familiar with. Once I did, and once I used this, I loved it. One of the hidden benefits of it, since Twitch is no longer supported officially on Roku, and you can only do it on Amazon, well, my Amazon Fire Stick, review over there, is in my basement right now. In my living room, I just have the Roku, but I have this as well. This supports Twitch. You can watch Twitch using this. So if you're into streaming stuff, playing video games, and watching other people play video games, the NVIDIA Shield here is almost a no-brainer. I will admit, part of my hesitation with getting an Android set-top box was Google knows enough about me already, and I was leery about giving them more information. If you're in that same boat, what you can do is create a Google account that is specific only for your NVIDIA Shield and not attached to any of your other services. Granted, a lot of the menu options that you saw in the UI portion won't be as useful if it's a single account that you're using just for this, but it will help separate your data. If you can get past having a Google branded hardware device here to stream your Netflix, your Hulu's, your whatever, I highly suggest the NVIDIA Shield Pro here. I am surprised at how much I actually like this. And for the power usage and the power that's inside of this, you can't go wrong if you consider yourself a power user of streaming services. So I have been Wanderer 001. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the area below. And as always, thanks for watching.